For 12 years, everyone said the same thing. Born deaf, nothing can be done. His father spent fortunes, traveled to 17 countries, consulted the best specialists money could buy. They all said the same thing. But a housekeeper who'd been working in that mansion for only 3 weeks saw something that made her blood run cold. Something lodged deep in that boy's ear. Something that had been there since birth. And when she finally pulled it out with trembling hands, what she discovered wasn't just a medical mistake. It was a crime that had been hiding in plain sight for over a decade. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Marcus Chin built his empire from nothing. Tech industry. Silicon Valley legend. The kind of wealth that makes headlines. But when his son Daniel was born, the doctors delivered news that shattered him. Profound deafness. Bilateral. Permanent. His wife Laura didn't survive the complications. Hemorrhage during delivery. Gone within hours. Marcus held his newborn son in one arm and signed the papers to remove life support with the other hand. He made a promise that night. Daniel would have everything. The best care. The best life. Whatever it took. 12 years of specialists followed. Boston, London, Seoul, Berlin. Cochlear implant consultations. Gene therapy trials. Experimental procedures that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Every single doctor said the same thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Chun. Your son's auditory nerves are underdeveloped. There's nothing we can do. Marcus refused to accept it. He'd built a billion-dollar company by refusing to accept limitations. But his son remained silent. Daniel grew up in a world of sign language and closed captions. A brilliant boy, top of his class at the private academy. But Marcus saw the loneliness in his eyes. The way Daniel would press his hand against the piano in the music room, trying to feel the vibrations of a song he'd never hear. The way he'd watch other kids laugh at jokes he couldn't follow. Marcus would have given every dollar to hear his son say one word. Just one. Dad. He never stopped searching. Never stopped hoping. He didn't know the answer was about to walk through his front door, carrying a mop bucket and a resume with no medical training whatsoever. Her name was Angela Torres, and she was about to see what 17 countries' worth of specialists had missed. Angela Torres arrived on a Monday in September. Single mother. 2 jobs. Barely keeping the lights on in her apartment. She took the position at the Chun estate because the pay was double what she made anywhere else. She needed it. Her daughter Sophia had asthma. The medications weren't cheap. Angela didn't care about the mansion or the wealthy family inside it. She just needed to make it through each month. Mrs. Whitmore, the head of staff, gave her the rules on day 1. Stay invisible. Work quietly. Don't interact with the boy. Mr. Chun is very protective. Angela nodded. She understood boundaries. But some things you can't help noticing. Daniel Chun was 12 years old. Tall for his age. Dark hair. Eyes that seemed older than they should be. He moved through the house like a ghost. Headphones always on, even though they produced no sound. A security blanket, Angela thought. Something to make him look like everyone else. But it was something else that caught her attention. Every single day, same pattern. Daniel would tilt his head to the left. Always the left. Then he'd press 2 fingers against his right ear and wince. Just slightly. Like he was trying to relieve pressure that wouldn't go away. Angela watched this happen during breakfast. During his tutoring sessions. While he sat in the library reading. Always the same ear. Always the same movement. No one else seemed to notice. The tutors kept teaching. The staff kept cleaning. Marcus would walk past his son without seeing it. But Angela saw. She'd worked as a nursing assistant years ago, before Sophia was born. She remembered what chronic pain looked like. The small, repeated movements people made when something hurt, but they'd learned to live with it. Daniel had learned to live with it. Whatever it was. On her 5th day, Angela was dusting the hallway outside Daniel's room. The door was cracked open. She glanced inside. Daniel sat at his desk, doing homework. He stopped writing, tilted his head left, pressed his fingers to his right ear. But this time, he didn't just wince. He squeezed his eyes shut tight. His jaw clenched. For 5 full seconds, he sat frozen like that. Then slowly, carefully, he released. Took a shaky breath. Went back to his homework like nothing happened. Angela's stomach tightened. That wasn't discomfort. That was pain. Real pain. The kind you hide because you've given up hope that anyone will fix it. She thought about saying something. But to who? Mrs. Whitmore had made it clear, don't interfere. Marcus Chun had hired the best doctors in the world. Who was she to question them? Just a housekeeper with a nursing assistant certificate from a community college. But that night, lying in her small apartment with Sophia asleep in the next room, Angela couldn't stop thinking about it. That wince. That pattern. 12 years old and living with chronic pain that everyone ignored. She picked up her phone. Searched. Ear pain in deaf children. The results loaded. And what she read made her hands go cold. Foreign body obstruction. Impacted cerumen. Congenital blockages. All of them could cause deafness. All of them could cause pain. All of them were fixable, if anyone bothered to look. Angela set down her phone, stared at the ceiling. A question formed in her mind, quiet at first, then louder. What if they never looked? What if 17 countries' worth of specialists ran their tests and made their diagnoses and never once checked for something simple? She closed her eyes. This wasn't her business. She was there to clean floors and collect a paycheck. But the image of Daniel's face wouldn't leave her mind. That silent pain. That practiced endurance. Angela whispered into the darkness. Lord, if you're showing me this for a reason, you're going to have to show me what to do next. Because I don't know. And I'm scared to find out. 3 weeks passed. Angela kept her distance like she was supposed to. But she couldn't stop watching. Daniel's pattern never changed. Tilt. Press. Wince. Sometimes multiple times an hour. And still, no one noticed. One afternoon, Angela was cleaning the windows in the study. Marcus was on a video call, pacing, talking about mergers and acquisitions. Daniel sat on the couch nearby, reading a book. He tilted his head, pressed his fingers to his ear. This time, his whole body tensed. The book slipped from his hands. Angela stopped cleaning. Marcus didn't even turn around, still talking about stock prices and board meetings. Daniel picked up the book with shaking hands. Went back to reading. Like nothing happened. Angela's chest felt tight. How long had this boy been screaming silently? How long had he been waiting for someone, anyone, to see? That evening, Angela broke protocol. She waited until Daniel was alone in the library. Knocked softly on the doorframe. He looked up. She signed slowly, carefully. Are you okay? Daniel's eyes widened slightly. Most of the staff didn't know sign language. They communicated through notes or gestures or not at all. He hesitated, then nodded. I'm fine. Angela stepped inside. Your ear, she signed. Does it hurt? Daniel's face changed. The mask he wore so carefully cracked just a little. He looked toward the door, making sure no one else was there. Then back at her. Sometimes, he signed. How long? He paused. Always. Angela's heart broke. Have you told your father? Daniel's hands moved quickly. Doctors say nothing's wrong. Dad spent so much money already. I don't want to bother him. 12 years old. And he thought his pain was a botheration. Angela knelt down so they were eye level. Can I look? She signed. Just look. I won't touch. I promise. Fear flickered across Daniel's face. He'd been examined by so many doctors. So many procedures. So much disappointment. But something in Angela's eyes must have felt different. Because slowly, he nodded. Angela moved closer. Daniel tilted his head, exposing his right ear. She angled him toward the lamplight. And then she saw it. Deep in the ear canal. Something dark. Not wax. Not fluid. Something solid. Dense. Lodged so far back, it was almost invisible unless you knew to look for it. Angela's breath caught. How had no one seen this? How had 12 years of specialists missed something right there? She pulled back carefully. Kept her face neutral even though her mind was racing. Thank you. She signed. Daniel looked at her with questions in his eyes. But she just smiled. Go back to your reading. I need to finish cleaning. He nodded slowly. Picked up his book. But he kept glancing at her. Like he knew something had shifted. Angela left the library. Walked calmly to the supply closet. Closed the door behind her. And pressed her back against the wall, hands shaking. She'd seen it. Clear as day. A foreign object. Blocking his ear canal. Probably since birth. This wasn't genetic deafness. This wasn't nerve damage. This was something fixable. And every doctor had missed it. Or worse. What if they hadn't missed it? What if they'd seen it and said nothing? Angela's stomach turned. No. That was conspiracy thinking. Doctors made mistakes. They were human. They overlooked things. But 17 countries worth of them? The best specialists money could buy? All missing the same thing. Angela pulled out her phone. Her hands were still shaking. She searched. Foreign body and ear canal misdiagnosis. Page after page of results. Stories of children diagnosed as deaf. Years of treatment. Thousands of dollars spent. only for a simple examination to reveal a bead, a piece of cotton, an insect, removed in minutes. Hearing restored immediately. Angela read one story about a boy in Ohio, deaf for 7 years. Turned out to be a popcorn kernel, lodged deep. Every specialist missed it until a school nurse looked with a simple otoscope. 7 years of silence. Because no one checked for the obvious. Angela closed her phone, leaned her head back against the wall. She knew what she'd seen. She knew what it meant. But what could she do about it? She was a housekeeper. If she told Marcus, he'd demand proof. He'd call more specialists, more appointments, more tests that might miss it again. And if she was wrong, if it was something else, she'd lose this job. Sophia's medication, their apartment, everything. But if she was right and did nothing, Daniel would spend the rest of his life in silence, living with pain, never hearing his own voice, never hearing music, never hearing someone say I love you out loud. Angela closed her eyes. God, I can't do this alone, she whispered. I need you to make this clear, because I don't know if I'm seeing a miracle or making a terrible mistake. She waited. No answer came, just the sound of her own heartbeat. And somewhere in this mansion, a boy who'd been waiting 12 years for someone to truly see him. Angela opened her eyes. She didn't have an answer yet, but she knew one thing. She couldn't unsee what she'd seen, and that meant a choice was coming, whether she was ready or not. Angela didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Sophia breathing softly in the next room. Her mind kept circling back to the same question. What happens if I'm wrong? She'd lose everything. The job that paid for Sophia's inhaler. The apartment they could barely afford. The stability she'd fought so hard to build. But what if she was right and did nothing? Daniel would live in silence forever. 12 years would become 20, 30, 50. A lifetime of pain nobody acknowledged. Angela rolled over, pulled her phone off the nightstand. 3:47 a.m. She opened her photos. Scrolled to the picture of Sophia from last month. Smiling. Healthy. Happy. Because Angela could afford her medication. She closed her eyes. I can't risk her, she thought. I can't. But Daniel's face kept appearing in her mind. That practiced wince. That silent endurance. Morning came too fast. Angela got Sophia ready for school. Packed her lunch. Made sure she had her inhaler. Sophia hugged her at the door. Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. Angela watched her daughter walk down the hallway toward the bus stop. So small. So dependent on her. She drove to the Chun estate with her stomach in knots. Mrs. Whitmore was waiting in the kitchen. You're late. I'm sorry. Traffic. Mrs. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. Mr. Chun wants the east wing cleaned today. Don't disturb him. He's working from home. Angela nodded. Started gathering supplies. Her hands moved automatically, but her mind was somewhere else. She spent the morning cleaning. Windows. Floors. Baseboards. Trying not to think. Trying not to decide. But around noon, she heard voices. Marcus and Daniel in the sitting room. She shouldn't listen, but she stopped anyway. Pressed herself against the hallway wall. Marcus was signing. Angela could see through the doorway. Your tutor says you're struggling with the new math unit. Daniel's hands moved slowly. I'm trying. Trying isn't good enough. You're capable of more. Daniel looked down. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just do better. Marcus's phone rang. He answered without looking at his son. Walked out of the room, already deep in conversation. Daniel sat alone on the couch. He tilted his head left, pressed his fingers to his right ear, squeezed his eyes shut. His small shoulders hunched forward. Angela watched him ride the wave of pain. Silent. Alone. Practiced. Something inside her cracked open. This boy had been invisible his whole life. Not because he was deaf. Because nobody truly saw him. Not the doctors. Not the tutors. Not even his own father. They saw a problem to solve. A diagnosis to manage. A limitation to work around. But nobody saw him. The boy who hurt. The boy who'd given up asking for help. The boy who'd learned that his pain didn't matter. Angela's hands balled into fists. No, this wasn't right. She'd spent her whole life invisible too. Single mother. Low income. Disposable labor. People looked through her like she was glass. But she saw Daniel. And maybe that was the point. Maybe God didn't send the specialists or the expensive doctors. Maybe he sent someone who knew what it felt like to be overlooked. Angela took a breath. Made a decision. Tonight, after Marcus went to bed, she would check Daniel's ear properly. Not just look. Actually check. And if she found what she thought she'd find, she'd remove it. She'd worry about the consequences later. The afternoon dragged. Angela cleaned mechanically, mind racing through scenarios. What if she hurt him? What if the object was lodged too deep? What if she was completely wrong and there was nothing there? At 4 p.m., Mrs. Whitmore found her in the hallway. "Angela, I need to speak with you." Angela's heart stopped. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Whitmore's face was stern. "I've noticed you watching Daniel." Angela's mouth went dry. "I don't mean to. Don't interrupt me." Mrs. Whitmore stepped closer. "I've been with this family for 8 years. I've seen staff come and go. The ones who get attached to that boy, they don't last. I'm not trying to. Mr. Chun has very specific boundaries. Daniel has been through enough. He doesn't need staff members trying to mother him or fix him or whatever it is you think you're doing." Angela's jaw tightened. "I'm just doing my job." "Then keep it that way." Mrs. Whitmore walked away, heels clicking against marble. Angela stood frozen. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sophia's school. "Reminder, medication refill needed by Friday. Current prescription expires end of week." Angela looked at the message. Friday was 3 days away. The refill cost $340. She got paid Friday. If she lost this job before then, she couldn't afford it. Her daughter would go without her inhaler. Angela closed her eyes. "What are you asking me to do, God? Choose between my child and someone else's?" No answer came. Just the silence of an empty hallway. And somewhere in this house, a boy who'd been silent for 12 years. That evening, Angela finished her shift, drove home, made dinner for Sophia, helped with homework, put her to bed, then sat alone in the dark living room. She thought about her own mother, dead from cancer when Angela was 16. They caught it late. Too late. Because they couldn't afford regular checkups. Because nobody looked until it was too obvious to ignore. Angela had watched her mother fade, watched her suffer, watched her die, all because they were poor and invisible and nobody cared enough to see. She wouldn't let that happen to Daniel. Not when she had the power to do something about it. Even if it cost her everything. Angela stood up, walked to her bedroom, opened the drawer where she kept her old nursing supplies, found the otoscope she'd kept from her assistant days, sterilized tweezers, alcohol wipes, flashlight. She packed them carefully in her bag. Her hands were steady now. The fear was still there, but so was something stronger. Purpose. Tomorrow night, after Marcus went to bed, she would act. She would check Daniel's ear. And if God had shown her this for a reason, she would trust him to see it through. Even if it meant losing everything. Some things were worth the cost. Angela set her bag by the door, lay down in bed, and for the first time in days, she slept. Not peacefully, but with the heavy rest of someone who'd finally stopped running from the choice they had to make. Morning was coming, and with it, the point of no return. Tuesday felt like walking through water. Every hour moved too slow and too fast at the same time. Angela cleaned the same rooms she cleaned every week. But today, everything felt different. Heavier. She kept the bag with her supplies in her car. Checked it twice during her lunch break. Otoscope, tweezers, alcohol wipes, flashlight. Everything sterilized. Everything ready. Her hands shook as she closed the trunk. What am I doing? This wasn't a hospital. She wasn't a doctor. If something went wrong, if she damaged his eardrum, if she pushed the object deeper, Angela forced herself to breathe. She'd assisted with ear cleanings dozens of times as a nursing assistant. She knew the anatomy. She knew how to be gentle, but knowing didn't stop the fear. That afternoon, Marcus left for a dinner meeting. Mrs. Whitmore retired to her quarters at 8 p.m. like always. The other staff filtered out one by one. By 9:30, the house was quiet. Angela was supposed to leave at 9. Instead, she hid in the laundry room, waiting, listening. Her heart hammered against her ribs. At 10:15, she heard Daniel's bedroom door close. She waited 20 more minutes. Then she moved. Silent footsteps down the hallway. Her bag felt like it weighed 100 pounds. She reached Daniel's door. Knocked softly. No answer. She knocked again. The door opened a crack. Daniel stood there in pajamas, confused. What's wrong? He signed. Angela's throat was tight. I need to check your ear again. Properly this time. Why? Because I think I can help you. Daniel's eyes widened. The doctors said. I know what the doctors said. Angela's hands moved firmly. But I saw something. And I need you to trust me. Daniel stood frozen. Fear and hope warred on his face. Will it hurt? Angela's heart cracked. I will be as gentle as I possibly can. I promise. He stared at her for a long moment, then slowly stepped back. Let her inside. Angela's hands trembled as she closed the door behind her. She set her bag on the desk, pulled out the supplies. Daniel watched every movement. "Sit here," she signed, pointing to the desk chair. He sat. She positioned the desk lamp, angling it perfectly. Then she pulled on latex gloves. Her fingers were shaking so badly, she almost couldn't get them on. "Deep breath," she signed to Daniel. But she was really telling herself. She picked up the otoscope, turned it on. The light was bright and focused. "Tilt your head left. Stay very still." Daniel obeyed. Angela leaned in, looked through the scope, and there it was, clearer than before. A dark object. Definitely foreign. Definitely lodged deep. It was pressed against the ear canal wall, surrounded by what looked like years of buildup. Her stomach dropped. This was real. This was actually there. She pulled back. Daniel's eyes were locked on her face. "What did you see?" He signed. Angela swallowed hard. "There's something in your ear. Something that shouldn't be there." "What is it?" "I don't know yet, but I need to take it out." Daniel went pale. "Take it out? Here?" "Yes." "Shouldn't we tell my dad? Go to a hospital?" Angela had thought about this, played it out 100 times in her head. "If we tell your dad, he'll call specialists. They'll schedule appointments, run tests. It could take weeks, and they might miss it again like they have for 12 years. She paused. "Or I can do it now. Carefully. Safely. And you could hear tonight." Daniel's breathing quickened. "What if something goes wrong? Then I'll take full responsibility. I'll call 911 immediately." "But Daniel." She waited until he looked at her. "I've seen this before. I know how to do this. And I genuinely believe this is why God put me in this house." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. "What if you're wrong? What if there's nothing there? Then I'm wrong. And I'm so sorry for giving you false hope." She reached out, took his hand. "But what if I'm right?" The question hung between them. Daniel looked at his bedroom door, then back at Angela. "If I can hear," he signed slowly, "what will it sound like?" Angela's eyes burned. "Like everything you've been missing." Daniel wiped his eyes, sat up straighter, took a deep breath. "Okay," he signed. "Do it." Angela's heart nearly stopped. "Are you sure?" "No, but I trust you." Those 4 words almost broke her. She nodded, picked up the sterilized tweezers. "This is going to feel weird. Maybe uncomfortable. If it hurts, really hurts, you squeeze my arm. Hard. And I'll stop immediately. Understand?" Daniel nodded, put his hand on her forearm. "Ready?" She signed with one hand. He closed his eyes, nodded. Angela positioned the otoscope in her left hand, tweezers in her right. "God, guide my hands," she whispered. "Please." She leaned in. The light illuminated the ear canal. She could see the object clearly now. Dark, dense, surrounded by compacted material. She inserted the tweezers slowly, millimeter by millimeter. Daniel's hand tightened on her arm, but he didn't squeeze, didn't pull away. The tweezers reached the object. Angela's entire world narrowed to this moment. Her hands, the tweezers, the blockage, nothing else existed. She hooked the edge gently, pulled. Resistance. Daniel's grip tightened. Angela stopped. "Breathe," she reminded herself. She adjusted the angle. Tried again. This time, slight movement. The object shifted. Just barely. Angela's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She pulled again. Slowly. Steadily. The object moved more. Then suddenly, release. It came free, sliding out with years of compacted cerumen around it. Angela pulled the tweezers out, looked at what sat in the metal grip. A small, dark object. Organic material that had hardened over time. Maybe a seed. Maybe an insect. Lodged there since infancy, blocking everything. Angela set it on a tissue. Her hands were shaking. Daniel's eyes were still closed, his hand still on her arm. "It's out," she signed with trembling fingers. Daniel didn't move. "Daniel?" Then slowly, his eyes opened. He looked confused. "Did you?" And then he stopped. His head tilted. Not in pain. In confusion. His eyes went wide. His hand flew to his ear. Not pressing. Touching. Feeling. His mouth opened. A sound came out. Rough. Unpracticed. But real. "I." He stopped. Stared at Angela. Then at his own throat. "I hear me." Angela's tears fell. Daniel stood up suddenly. The chair scraped against the floor. He jumped. Spun toward the sound. What was that? His voice cracked. Loud. Unmodulated. He'd never heard himself speak before. Never learned volume control. "The chair," Angela whispered. Daniel's face transformed. "You," he breathed. "Your voice. That's your voice." Angela nodded, unable to speak. Daniel turned in a circle. The ceiling fan hummed above them. What's that sound? The fan. The fan makes sound. He walked to the window, pressed his hand against it. Outside, wind moved through trees. Everything makes sound, he whispered. Then louder. Everything makes sound. Angela lunged forward, pressed her finger to her lips. Quiet, she whispered. Your father. My father. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I can hear my father. Before Angela could answer, footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Fast. Her blood turned to ice. The door burst open. Marcus Chin stood there, still in his suit from dinner. Eyes wild. What the hell is going on? I heard. He stopped, stared at Daniel, then at Angela, then at the tweezers on the desk, the tissue with the dark object, the gloves on Angela's hands. What did you do? His voice was low. Dangerous. Angela stood up. Mr. Chun, I can explain. What did you do to my son? Daniel stepped forward. Dad. Marcus's face went white. What? Dad? I can't hear you. The words hung in the air. Marcus stared at his son. That's not possible. Daniel's face crumpled. It is. She fixed me. She. But Marcus wasn't listening. He was looking at Angela, at the unauthorized medical supplies, at the evidence of what she'd done. You touched my son, he said slowly. Without permission. Without credentials. In my home. Sir, please. Security. His voice boomed through the house. Daniel flinched at the volume. Dad, no. She helped me. But Marcus was already pulling out his phone. I'm calling the police. You assaulted my child. Angela's world tilted. I didn't assault him. I removed a blockage that. You're not a doctor. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. Restrain her, Marcus ordered. Don't let her leave. The guards moved toward Angela. Daniel jumped between them. No. His scream was raw, unpracticed, desperate. Everyone froze. Because it was the first time Marcus Chun had ever heard his son's voice. And it was breaking. The room went silent. Not the empty silence Daniel had lived in for 12 years, but the thick, suffocating silence that comes after something breaks. Marcus stared at his son. Daniel's chest heaved. Tears streamed down his face. Please don't take her, he said. His voice cracked on every word. Loud. Uncontrolled. Beautiful. Marcus's phone slipped from his hand. Hit the floor. He didn't pick it up. Daniel, he whispered. I can't hear you, Dad. I can't hear you. Daniel touched his own throat, feeling the vibrations. This is what I sound like. Marcus took a step forward. Then another. His legs looked unsteady. Say it again. What? Say Dad again. Daniel's face crumpled. Dad. Marcus dropped to his knees. A sound came out of him that Angela had never heard a man make. Raw. Broken. Grief and joy colliding. Oh my God. Oh my God. You can hear me. He reached for Daniel. Pulled him close. Daniel wrapped his arms around his father's neck. You're crying, Daniel said. I can hear you crying. Marcus sobbed into his son's shoulder. 12 years of silence breaking open in one moment. The security guards stood frozen in the doorway, not sure what to do. Angela stayed perfectly still, waiting. After a long moment, Marcus pulled back, held Daniel's face in his hands. How, he whispered. How is this possible? Daniel turned to look at Angela. She found something. In my ear. Marcus followed his son's gaze. The grief on his face hardened into something else. Confusion. Then anger. He stood slowly, walked to the desk, looked at the tissue, the dark object sitting there, the tweezers, the otoscope. You did this, he said quietly. Angela nodded. Yes, sir. You're not a doctor. No, sir. I was a nursing assistant. Years ago. Marcus picked up the tissue, stared at the object. This was in his ear. Yes. For how long? Based on the buildup around it? Years. Maybe since birth. Marcus's jaw clenched. That's impossible. He's seen the best specialists in the world. I know. They would have found this. Angela said nothing. Marcus's hands started shaking. They ran tests. Scans. Examinations. Are you telling me they all missed this? I'm telling you it was there. And now it's not. And your son can hear. Marcus set the tissue down, pressed both hands against the desk. His shoulders hunched. 12 years, he whispered. Sir. 12 years. He spun around, face twisted with rage. But not at Angela. At something bigger. I spent millions. Millions. I took him to 17 countries. I trusted the best doctors money could buy. His voice broke. And you're telling me it was this? This tiny thing. Something you removed in 10 minutes. Angela's throat was tight. Yes, sir. Marcus grabbed his phone off the floor. Started dialing. What are you doing? Daniel asked. Calling Dr. Hendricks. Right now. The phone rang. Once. Twice. A sleepy voice answered. Mr. Chen? It's nearly midnight. My son can hear. Silence on the other end. I'm sorry, what? Daniel can hear. Our housekeeper removed a foreign object from his ear. Something you apparently missed for 12 years. That's... Mr. Chun, that's not possible. We've done comprehensive. Come to my house. Now. Bring your equipment. Verify what I'm telling you. Mr. Chun, it's midnight. I can schedule. Now. Marcus hung up. Called another number. Dr. Yao, I need you at my house immediately. Another call. Dr. Phillips. Emergency. My estate. Now. He made 6 calls. Each one the same message. Get here. Verify this. Explain to me how you missed it. Daniel stood in the center of the room. Overwhelmed. Every phone call his father made, he heard. Every word. Every tone. Angela watched him process sound for the first time. The anger in his father's voice. The confusion. The pain. It was too much, too fast. Daniel covered his ears. It's so loud, he said. Everything is so loud. Angela moved toward him. Marcus held up a hand. Don't. He's overwhelmed. He needs. I said don't. His voice was sharp. Angela stopped. Marcus knelt in front of Daniel. Gently pulled his hands away from his ears. It's okay. You're okay. You'll learn to adjust. Daniel's eyes were wide with fear. Is it always like this? Like what? So much. Marcus's face softened. Yes, but you'll get used to it. I promise. Daniel looked at Angela over his father's shoulder. She gave him a small nod. You're safe, she mouthed. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Marcus went downstairs. Angela heard voices. Doctors arriving. Dr. Hendricks was first. Then Dr. Yao. Then 3 others. All of them dragged from their beds. All of them brought to face what they'd missed. Marcus led them upstairs. The room filled with specialists. Expensive suits even at midnight. Briefcases with equipment. Faces carefully neutral. Dr. Hendricks approached Daniel. May I examine you? Daniel looked at his father. Marcus nodded. The doctor pulled out an otoscope. Checked Daniel's right ear. His left. His expression never changed. But Angela saw his jaw tighten. He stepped back. There's no blockage. The canal is clear. Because it was removed, Marcus said quietly. 2 hours ago. Dr. Hendricks glanced at Angela. By her? Yes. Mr. Chun, this woman is not qualified. Test his hearing. I'm sorry. Test. His. Hearing. Dr. Hendricks hesitated. Then pulled out a tuning fork. Struck it. Held it near Daniel's ear. Do you hear this? Daniel nodded. It's ringing. Dr. Hendricks's face went pale. He tried the other ear. Then audiometry testing from his bag. Simple tones at different frequencies. Daniel responded to every single one. The room went quiet. All 6 doctors stood frozen. Dr. Yao cleared his throat. This is unexpected. Unexpected. Marcus's voice was dangerously calm. My son has been deaf for 12 years. And you call this unexpected? Mr. Chun, his diagnosis was based on comprehensive testing. Was it? Marcus picked up the tissue from the desk. Because this says otherwise. Dr. Hendricks looked at the object. Then at his colleagues. We should take this to a lab. Analyze it. Determine. Determine what? How you all failed to find it. No one answered. Marcus set the tissue down carefully. I want records. Every examination. Every test. Every scan from the past 12 years. On my desk, by tomorrow morning. Mr. Chun, I understand you're upset. Upset? Marcus laughed. It was a terrible sound. My son spent 12 years in silence because you didn't look hard enough. My wife died giving birth to him, and I couldn't even tell him stories about her because he couldn't hear me. His voice cracked. I paid you millions. Millions. To help him. And you took my money and gave me nothing. Dr. Hendricks straightened. Mr. Chun, I assure you, we followed every protocol. Your protocols failed. Marcus turned to Angela. She stood against the wall. Silent. Waiting for whatever came next. She succeeded where all of you failed. A housekeeper with a nursing certificate found what 6 specialists couldn't. He looked back at the doctors. Get out. Mr. Chun, get out of my house. The doctors filed out quickly, whispering to each other. Faces tight with fear. They knew what was coming. Lawsuits. Investigations. The end of reputations. The door closed behind them. The house fell quiet again. Marcus stood in the center of the room. Daniel sat on the bed, exhausted. Angela remained against the wall. Finally, Marcus turned to her. You should have told me. You wouldn't have believed me. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I'm nobody. And they're the experts. Marcus flinched. Because she was right. If she'd come to him and said she saw something in Daniel's ear, he would have dismissed her. Called another specialist to prove her wrong. Wasted more time. More money. More of his son's life. You took a massive risk, Marcus said quietly. I know. You could have hurt him. I know. You did this without permission. Without credentials. In my home. Angela lifted her chin. And I'd do it again. Marcus stared at her. Why? Because nobody else was going to. The words hung between them. True and brutal. Marcus looked at his son. Daniel was touching his ears gently, listening to the sound of his own breathing, discovering his voice, hearing the world for the first time. Marcus's face crumbled. Thank you, he whispered. Angela's eyes burned. You're welcome. But even as she said it, she knew. This wasn't over. The doctors would protect themselves. There would be investigations. Questions. Legal consequences for what she'd done. She'd saved Daniel's hearing. But the cost was about to come due, and it would be higher than she ever imagined. The sun rose over the Chun estate like it always did. But nothing was the same. Angela sat in the kitchen, hands wrapped around cold coffee. She hadn't slept. Hadn't gone home. Marcus had asked her to stay. Said they needed to talk. But hours had passed, and he hadn't come down. Mrs. Whitmore appeared in the doorway. Her face was unreadable. Mr. Chin wants to see you. In his study. Angela stood. Her legs felt unsteady. This was it. The moment he'd tell her the lawyers were involved. That she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She followed Mrs. Whitmore through the silent house. At the study door, the older woman paused. What you did was reckless. Angela nodded. I know. Mrs. Whitmore's expression softened just slightly. It was also the bravest thing I've ever seen. She opened the door. Marcus sat at his desk, surrounded by papers. Medical records. Test results. Bills. 12 years of documentation spread before him. He looked like he'd aged a decade overnight. Sit, he said quietly. Angela sat. Marcus pushed a folder across the desk. Dr. Hendrix's records. From Daniel's examination 4 years ago. Angela opened it. Her breath caught. There, in the notes, circled in red ink. Possible obstruction noted in right ear canal. Recommend follow-up examination. He saw it, Angela whispered. 4 years ago. Marcus's voice was hollow. There's a follow-up appointment scheduled. 3 weeks later. He pointed to another document. That appointment was canceled. Rescheduled for a month later. Then canceled again. Angela looked up. By who? By me. Marcus's hands trembled. I was in Tokyo closing a deal. His assistant called, said it was routine follow-up, nothing urgent. I told them to reschedule. His voice cracked. And then I forgot. I just forgot. The weight of it sat between them. Dr. Hendrix never flagged it as urgent. Marcus continued. Never pushed for the follow-up. Never called me directly. He picked up another file. Dr. Yao's notes from 2 years ago. Same thing. Canal appears partially occluded. Requires closer examination. Marcus looked at Angela. They all saw something. Every single one of them. But nobody acted. Nobody insisted. And I was too busy building my empire to notice. Angela's throat was tight. You didn't know. I should have known. I'm his father. He stood up. Walked to the window. I spent 12 years blaming God. Blaming genetics. Blaming fate. When the truth was so much simpler. He turned to face her. Everyone failed him. The doctors who saw it and didn't act. The father who was too distracted to follow up. The system that values billing over healing. Marcus's eyes were red. Everyone except you. Angela shook her head. I'm not a hero, Mr. Chun. You saw my son. Really saw him. Not his diagnosis. Not his disability. Him. Marcus walked back to the desk. Picked up a check. Held it out to her. This is 6 months' salary. And a reference letter that will open any door you want. Angela stared at the check. Her hands didn't move. You're firing me. No. I'm setting you free. Marcus set the check on the desk. What you did last night was illegal. Technically, it was assault. The medical board is already asking questions. Dr. Hendrix is trying to protect his reputation. He paused. If you stay here, if your name stays attached to this house, you'll be investigated. Possibly charged. Angela's stomach dropped. But if you leave quietly, take this money, I'll handle the rest. I have lawyers. Resources. I'll make sure the focus stays on the doctors who failed, not on the woman who succeeded. Angela looked at the check, then at Marcus. What about Daniel? Marcus's face softened. Daniel is going to be fine. Because of you. He'll wonder where I went. I'll tell him the truth. That you gave him the greatest gift anyone ever could. And that sometimes the cost of a gift is saying goodbye. Tears blurred Angela's vision. I don't want his money. It's not about what you want. It's about what you need. Marcus pushed the check closer. Your daughter has asthma. You're working 2 jobs. You're drowning. He met her eyes. Let me help you the way you helped my son. Angela stared at the check. 6 months of not worrying. 6 months of Sophia having everything she needed. 6 months to figure out what came next. But leaving Daniel felt like tearing out her own heart. Can I say goodbye to him? Marcus nodded slowly. He's in the music room. Angela stood, walked out on shaking legs. Down the hallway she'd cleaned 100 times. To the music room where Daniel had pressed his hands against the piano, feeling vibrations he couldn't hear. He sat there now, at the piano, pressing keys, actually hearing them for the first time. He looked up when she entered. Angela. His voice was getting stronger, more controlled. Listen to this. He played a simple chord. His face lit up with wonder. It's beautiful. Why didn't anyone tell me piano was beautiful? Angela's tears fell. Because you had to hear it yourself. Daniel played another chord, then stopped, looked at her face. You're leaving. It wasn't a question. Angela nodded. Why? Because sometimes helping people means stepping back after. Daniel stood up, walked to her. I don't want you to go. I know, baby. You gave me everything. Angela knelt down. I level with him. No. I just removed what was blocking you. You were always meant to hear. Always meant to speak. She touched his chest. Your voice was always in there. Waiting. Daniel threw his arms around her neck. Thank you, he whispered. For seeing me. Angela held him tight. Thank you for trusting me. They stayed like that for a long moment. Then Angela pulled back. Promise me something. What? Promise me you'll use this gift. Your voice. Your hearing. Promise me you'll speak up for people who can't. For people who get overlooked. Daniel wiped his eyes. I promise. Angela smiled. Good. She stood. Walked to the door. Looked back one more time. Daniel stood by the piano, one hand resting on the keys. I'll never forget you, he said. I'll never forget you either. Angela left before she could break down completely. She found Marcus in the hallway. The check, he said. You forgot it. I'll come back for it. She couldn't carry it right now. Couldn't carry anything but the weight of goodbye. 3 weeks later, Angela sat in her apartment. Sophia was at school. The check was deposited. Bills were paid. The nursing home had called. Her grandmother's account was current. Everything was stable. But Angela felt hollow. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her. Hello. Ms. Torres. This is Patricia Chun, Marcus's sister. Angela's heart jumped. Yes. I'm calling from Children's Hospital. I'm the director here. Angela waited. My brother told me what you did for Daniel. And I've been thinking about it for weeks. Patricia paused. We need people like you. People who see what others miss. People who care more about healing than credentials. Angela's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm offering you a position. Pediatric patient advocate. You'd work with children and families, making sure nothing falls through the cracks. Making sure they're seen. Tears welled in Angela's eyes. I'm not qualified. You're exactly qualified. You have medical training, compassion, and the courage to act. That's more than most people with fancy degrees. Patricia continued. The pay is good. Benefits included. And we'll sponsor your nursing degree if you want to go back to school. Angela couldn't speak. Ms. Torres. I'm here. Is that a yes? Angela closed her eyes. Saw Daniel's face when he heard his first sound. Saw all the other children who might be waiting. Overlooked. Unheard. Invisible. Yes, she whispered. It's a yes. 6 months later. Angela walked through the halls of Children's Hospital. White coat. Badge. Purpose. She'd found 12 children in 6 months. 12 cases where something was missed. Not all of them were as dramatic as Daniel's. But they all mattered. She'd learned to trust her instincts. To speak up even when people doubted her. To see what others missed. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She opened it. A video. She pressed play. Daniel appeared on screen. Taller. Confident. Standing on a stage. My name is Daniel Chun, he said clearly. And until 8 months ago, I couldn't hear my own voice. The camera pulled back. An auditorium full of people. I was told my deafness was permanent, incurable, something I'd have to live with forever. He paused. But one person refused to accept that. She looked when others didn't. She acted when others wouldn't. She gave me my voice. Daniel smiled. Today, I'm announcing the Angela Torres Foundation, dedicated to ensuring that no child goes unheard, that no symptom goes uninvestigated, that no family is overlooked because of who they are or what they can afford. The crowd erupted in applause. We're starting with free hearing screenings in underserved communities. Full examinations. No child turned away. Daniel looked directly at the camera. Angela, if you're watching this, thank you. For seeing me. For believing. For being brave. The video ended. Angela sat down on a hallway bench. Tears streaming. Not from sadness. From the overwhelming realization that one moment of courage had rippled further than she ever imagined. She thought about her grandmother's words. God doesn't always send help in fancy packages, baby girl. Sometimes he sends it through folks with nothing but willing hands. Angela looked at her hands. These hands that had trembled, that had doubted, that had chosen to act anyway. She whispered into the quiet hospital hallway. Thank you for making them willing. Somewhere in Connecticut, a boy who had lived in silence was using his voice to help others. Somewhere in New Jersey, a woman who had felt invisible was making sure children were seen. And in the space between them, a truth settled like grace. Miracles don't always come from expected places. Sometimes they come from the overlooked, the underestimated, the ones who simply refuse to look away. Because seeing someone truly, completely, courageously, that's not just compassion. It's love. And love has always been the most powerful miracle of all. If this story touched you, leave a comment below telling us about a time someone saw you when others didn't. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share it with them. Sometimes the story we need finds us exactly when we need it most. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters. Because in a world that often overlooks the quiet miracles, we need to remember, the smallest act of courage can change everything.